Valentine's Day, a day of love, warmth, and companionship. But for Daniel, it was the night he wished he had never left home. It started around midnight. Daniel was driving down a deserted highway, heading home from a friend's house. The road stretched endlessly, flanked by dense woods on either side. The only sound was the rhythmic thump of his tires against the pavement. Then he saw her. A young woman in a red dress stood by the roadside, her long dark hair covering part of her face. She wasn't hitchhiking, just standing there, motionless. Something about her posture. It wasn't right. Daniel slowed down, hesitating. He wasn't the type to pick up strangers, but something in him, maybe guilt, maybe curiosity, made him stop. He rolled down the window and asked, "Do you need a ride?" She turned to him slowly. Her face was pale, almost translucent under the moonlight. Without a word, she opened the door and got in. The air inside the car turned ice cold. Daniel swallowed hard. "Where are you headed?" She whispered an address. A place not far from his own neighborhood. He nodded and drove on, his grip on the wheel tightening. Every few seconds, he glanced at her through the rearview mirror. She sat stiffly, hands folded in her lap, staring straight ahead. The streetlights flickered as they passed. The silence stretched between them. Then, she spoke. "Be careful," she murmured. "He's watching." Daniel's stomach twisted. Who? No answer. When he turned his head slightly to look at her, she was gone. The seat was empty. The door was still locked. A faint scent of roses lingered in the air. He slammed on the brakes, heart pounding. He was alone. Terrified, he drove straight to the address she had given. It was an old house, dark and abandoned. As he approached, the front door creaked open. Inside, a single photo sat on a dusty table. It was her, with a man standing behind her, his face shadowed, his hands gripping her shoulders. Daniel fled, never looking back. The police later told him the house had been vacant for decades. But every year, on Valentine's night, someone reports seeing the girl in the red dress. Lisa never liked Valentine's Day, but this year she received a card. It was simple, just a red envelope slipped under her apartment door. No name, no return address. Inside was a single note, written in shaky handwriting. "I see you." Lisa laughed it off. A prank, she thought. Maybe a weird coworker is messing with her. But the next morning, another card appeared. "I like when you wear blue." Her blood ran cold. That was what she had worn yesterday. Lisa checked the security camera footage in her apartment building. Between 2 and 3 a.m., the footage glitched. A full hour of static. That night, she bolted her doors and windows, barely sleeping. The next day, another card. "You locked the windows. Good girl." Lisa stopped breathing. She hadn't told anyone about that. She felt like she was being watched. Desperate, she called the police. They found no signs of forced entry. They told her to stay vigilant. She barely made it through the day at work. Exhausted, she returned home. As she turned the key in her lock, a chill ran down her spine. Her apartment was different. The air felt heavier, suffocating. And on her kitchen table, a single red rose, petals curling at the edges. Next to it, another note. "You're prettier when you sleep." Lisa didn't sleep that night. The police searched the apartment again. No signs of entry, no fingerprints. But Lisa knew. Someone had been inside, and worse, they might still be. Unless you want to know what happens next. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because you never know when the darkness will find you again.